Welcome to your new budget tracker bundle. We're going to walk you through how to use each tab in this bundle. I first want to thank you for purchasing this digital product from our store. Every purchase helps us with our business and helps support our family, and we appreciate it so much. We also want to congratulate you on a debt-free journey. We are here to cheer you on, and if this is your first time filling out a budget, we know how overwhelming, how scary, and really just quite discouraging it can be. So please reach out to us on Instagram, or our email is debtfreefergs@gmail.com, and we'd love to help answer any questions that you might have and help cheer you on your debt-free journey. Here is the budget tab. You are going to right-click and duplicate this tab for the number of paychecks that you receive in a month. So if you receive paychecks weekly, you're going to duplicate this tab 4 times and create your budgets every week. If you get paid bi-weekly, you'll duplicate it 2 times and have 2 budgets going throughout the month. And then if you only get paid once per month, you're only going to need 1 tab for your budget. So you're going to enter in any paychecks for that period, what you estimate they will be, and then after you receive the paycheck, you enter what the actual was and check it off once it's deposited into your account. Any other income you account for right here. Fixed expenses are those expenses, those bills that do not change every month. So they're always going to be the same amount. And so you'll enter any of those that you will have to account for within this time period. So for this budget tab, I have October 5th through the 11th. So any of our fixed expenses that are going to come out through that week are going to be accounted for right now. Again, enter the actual when you actually pay it and check it off when it is withdrawn from your account. The variable expenses, these are your expenses that are not fixed. They are not the same every month. They change from budget to budget. And so you determine how much you want to spend in each of these categories or how much the bill is because, your electric, gas, garbage bill, sometimes those change. And so you're going to enter in those estimated amounts and how much you'd like to spend in those certain categories, and then enter in the actual after you've spent. And you'll see on the next tab that when you are tracking your expenses underneath this variable expenses tracker, some of these cells will populate for you based on how much you spend. And down here in all caps is our snowball debt payment. All caps to help remind you that this is one of the most important parts of your budget. So you can see here what you estimated you might be able to pay this month, but then you have some areas where you overspent. And so what you're going to do is scroll up to the top, and our table over here, our summary table, tells you your income minus the fixed expenses that you've entered, minus the variable expenses, and then $0 budgeting. You want this to be a 0, which means that you've told every dollar that you received where you want it to go. And since we have a $841.64 right here, what we can do is we can come down to our snowball payment and enter in that amount. Now, when you come back up, you have $0 left over. So you've now told all of your income where it's going to go between your fixed expenses, variable expenses, and that snowball debt payment. Next, we have the variable expense tracker. So this is a really important part of your debt-free journey because it's very important for you to track everything that you're spending. This really helps with shifting your mindset and making sure that you're being very intentional about your money and where it's going. So anytime you spend money, you're going to want to enter this into the tracker. That's why it's nice to have Google Sheets on your phone, so then you can open up this tab and enter it in when you're at the store or after you've left. So you're going to put the date, you put the amount, you select a category. Send us an email if you'd like help editing these categories, changing them out, adding or deleting. We can help you take care of that. Then you're going to put any notes for maybe what the store was or who it was for. And so over here in this summary table, it will actually populate your totals for you. And it has figured out what is remaining based off of what you have entered into the budget tab for your estimated variable expenses. So what you have budgeted for this period. And so it will let you know how much you have left or if you've overspent. And so, again, tracking your expenses is a really good way for you to be a lot more mindful about what you're spending. And then this graph down here populates from your summary table, showing you where most of your money is being spent. So the debt tab, this one is obviously very important because you are trying to pay off your debt. So at the very top, we have our why. It's really hard to go on a debt-free journey and stay motivated throughout the whole process. So making sure that your why for why you want to become debt-free is at the very center of this budget tracker is super important. So make sure you edit out what you would like your why to be for why you would like to achieve financial freedom. Then we have the debt progress table. This is going to populate data that you're going to enter down here in our debt tracker. So make sure you go through and think of every single debt that you owe. So it might be a credit card, a loan, a medical bill, any kind of payment plan. Make sure you enter in all of those debts. It's helpful to also enter the due date, your APR, and what your starting balance was. Then each month as you pay off debt, make sure you enter in that current balance, and it will populate up here how much you've paid off and the percentage of your starting debt that you've paid off. It's important for you to update this current balance because sometimes you forget if you're focusing on just one debt account at a time. So let's say, for example, we're focusing on this medical bill. You often forget that you have to make minimum payments on these other debt accounts as well. And so each month, if you're updating the current balance, you're going to see that these balances also drop, even though you're really just focusing on typically one debt account at a time until you have it paid off. So make sure that you think of all of those different debt accounts you might have, enter them here and track this frequently so then you can stay motivated by that percentage of debt that you have paid off. And again, having that why as a constant reminder for why you want to become debt-free. So here we have our sinking funds tracker. And so for sinking funds, these are expenses that you know are coming up or you know that you often have. And so you create these little savings accounts essentially, so you can make sure that you always have money available for these different categories. So down the side here, we've given you some possible sinking funds that you might want to rename all of these little tables for. But we've also given you some that you might have. And up at the top, we gave you some examples here. So for your medical sinking fund, each month you're going to enter in what your starting amount is, what you currently have in that sinking fund. And then you're going to deposit any that you need per each week or withdraw if you need to use any of that sinking fund. Now make sure you put a minus sign if you are doing any of these withdrawals. That way it calculates our total correctly. If you have a specific amount of money that you know you're going to need by a certain date, make sure you determine that so then you know how much you need to fund per week. For example, our daughter will need a tonsillectomy on February 1st and we need $1,500. So we can just Google how many weeks until that date and then take that amount, $1,500, and divide it by the number of weeks until February 1st. And that's how much money we need to fund into the sinking fund in order to have the full $1,500 by February 1st. So we need to put $85 per week into this account. And so you can do that for any of these other sinking funds. We've talked on our Instagram about our vacation fund. So as long as you are funding money into that vacation fund with your paychecks or once a month, then we really believe that you should be able to enjoy vacations even when you are on a debt-free journey. It's really just about planning ahead and making sure you're saving the money so you don't have to go into more debt to do any of these things. Now, it's really important for you to also put any notes over here so then you can also be thinking ahead. Oh, we spent, X amount on the kids in October because we had sports registration. So maybe we need to make sure that we're putting a little bit extra into our kids' sinking fund in the fall because we have to pay for some sports fees. So it just kind of helps you be mindful of, again, where your money's going. And here we have the emergency fund tracker. So it's really important that you have money in your emergency fund, whether that be cash that you have at home or an savings account at your bank. But it's really important so then if you have anything come up, you can pull from this emergency fund instead of having to charge something to your credit card and go into more debt. So determining how much you need is up to you. A lot of people go off of what their monthly expenses are, and they make sure they have at least 1 month's worth of expenses funded into their emergency fund. It's typically somewhere between $1,000 to $3,000, depending on your monthly expenses. So make sure that you have entered in each month how much you currently have in your emergency fund. Anytime you make a deposit and then a withdrawal, again, use that minus sign. And also make sure you make note of what that withdrawal was for, because sometimes this helps remind you that you need to create a sinking fund, because these are expenses that we should have tried to think about ahead of time. Sometimes there are things that just come up. Your car breaks down and you don't have enough money in your sinking fund for vehicle repairs. And so you'll have to borrow from your emergency fund instead. And that happens. But again, just tracking everything is really important in trying to help shift your mindset around money. And so the summary table over here tells you what amount you need in your emergency fund. So this you're going to determine based on your monthly expenses and enter the amount here. And then it will populate your current total based on what you've entered into the table, and then the amount left that you need to fund currently. So with your next paycheck, you're going to make sure that you make a deposit of $125 into your emergency fund so it's fully funded again. And last but not least, we have our goals tab. So this tab you can lay out how you'd like. We like to do monthly goals, yearly goals, and debt-free goals, but you might want to do weekly or maybe even daily goals. So for each goal, we also like to reward ourselves. It just helps the debt-free process kind of a little bit more fun, a little bit more motivating. You have to give up so much when you're doing a debt-free journey that it's nice to kind of sprinkle in little rewards throughout the process so then you're motivated and having fun still. So if you scroll down, the debt-free goals is a really great section for those times where you're really tempted to spend your hard-earned paycheck on something other than your debt snowball payment. And so you might think of something that you'd really like to buy. When you do, try to come here and enter that in. It can help you think about what you'll be able to purchase when you do become debt-free. And it also helps you realize that it is just a want. It is something that you want right now, but not something that you need. And so having it written down, it kind of just takes it off your plate. So you know that that's something you'll eventually get, but it's just not in the cards right now. And so you'll actually see this list probably grow quite a bit when you think of those things that you can't wait to have when you do become debt-free. And the list in and of itself kind of becomes motivating because you're starting to think of all of these things that will feel so good to purchase once you don't have any debt weighing you down. So make this goals tab work for you and edit it in any way that helps you stay motivated throughout your debt-free journey. We wish you the best of luck, and please reach out at debtfreefergs@gmail.com or on our Instagram if you have any issues, any questions, or you just want an accountability partner to cheer you along. We will be here for you. Thanks. When you are done watching this video and updating your budget tracker, you can come back to the first tab here, click on the down arrow, and delete this tab if you'd like. And throughout all of the other tabs, when you scroll to the bottom, this little gray question mark down at the bottom, you can click on that to watch this informational video at any point. And each tab has that at the bottom of the tabs. We can't wait to see what you're going to accomplish on your debt-free journey. We want to thank you again for purchasing this budget tracker bundle. Every purchase of one of our digital products that we have in our stand store helps support our family and support our business, and we appreciate you so much. So reach out at any time at debtfreefergs@gmail.com or find us on our Instagram at debtfreefergs. Best of luck to you and your debt-free journey.